All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we are diving headfirst into one of the most fascinating places on Earth, a place that just seems to ooze mystery and intrigue. Vatican City. We're talking secret archives, ancient prophecies, the Knights Templar, you name it. The Vatican's probably got a conspiracy theory attached to it.
Well, it's not hard to see why, is it? I mean, you've got this unique blend of religious power and political influence, all wrapped up in a city-state that's steeped in centuries of history. It's practically a recipe for speculation.
Okay, so let's kick things off with a big one. The Vatican's secret archives. Or I guess we should call them the Apostolic Archive now, but come on. Secret archives just sounds way cooler, right?
Yeah, there's definitely a certain allure to that old name, like it's hiding something.
Exactly. And the theories about what might be hidden in there, well, let's just say they get pretty wild. Lost gospels that could completely rewrite Christian history, proof of alien contact, you name it, people have theorized it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just the sheer volume of material in there, documents spanning centuries, papal correspondence, historical records. It's almost overwhelming. It's kind of natural that people would let their imaginations run wild.
Makes sense. But I gotta admit, the idea of some researcher stumbling across, like, a long-lost diary of a pope that reveals some earth-shattering secret, that's pretty exciting stuff.
Oh, for sure. And I think that sense of the unknown is what really makes the Vatican Secret Archive so captivating. It's like a symbol of hidden knowledge, maybe even forbidden knowledge, and who knows what secrets might be buried in there.
Speaking of secrets, we can't talk about the Vatican without mentioning the prophecy of the popes. Now, this is a document that supposedly lays out the entire line of popes throughout history, each one described with a short cryptic motto. Some folks even claim it accurately predicts the events of each papacy.
It's definitely been a subject of debate for centuries, with some people questioning its authenticity. But regardless of its origins, it's fascinating how it's been interpreted and reinterpreted throughout history. You can almost track how people's anxieties and fears have evolved by how they read those prophecies.
Yeah, especially when it comes to the final pope mentioned in the prophecy, Petrus Romanus. Now, with Pope Francis being the current pope, well, let's just say some people are getting a little anxious about the whole end times thing.
Well, it's no surprise that a prophecy like that would resonate in times of uncertainty, right? I mean, it's human nature to try to make sense of the future, especially when things seem a little shaky. And sometimes, even if it's just for a little bit of comfort, we try to find those answers in ancient prophecies, trying to piece together the clues to see what's coming next.
Okay, so we've got secret archives, we've got prophecies about the end of the world. What else could possibly be lurking in the shadows of the Vatican? Oh yeah, how about a secret that was literally kept under wraps for over 80 years? I'm talking, of course, about the Third Secret of Fatima.
Right. The whole story of the Fatima apparitions is fascinating in itself. 3 shepherd children in Portugal claiming to have visions of the Virgin Mary. 2 of the secrets they revealed were made public pretty quickly, but the third secret, well, the Vatican held on to that one until the year 2000.
And that delay created this whole breeding ground for speculation. What were they hiding? Was it some terrifying prophecy that the world just wasn't ready for? Was it a message that could shake the church to its core?
It's understandable that people would jump to those conclusions, especially with all the buildup and anticipation. And then when the Vatican finally released the third secret and it basically focused on a vision of persecution and violence against the church, well, I think a lot of people felt a little let down.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly the earth-shattering revelation some were expecting. But you know what? That ambiguity, that open-endedness, it's almost perfect fuel for conspiracy theories. It allows people to project their own fears and interpretations onto it. It becomes this blank canvas for whatever they want to believe.
I think you're right. It's like a Rorschach test for people's anxieties about the future, about the fate of the world, even about the church itself.
All right, let's move on from the realm of prophecy and visions for a bit. Let's talk about something a little more, shall we say, tangible, treasure. And what better group to spark treasure hunting conspiracies than the Knights Templar? I mean, they practically wrote the book on it.
Oh, for sure. Powerful military order, mysterious downfall, rumors of hidden wealth. I mean, they've got all the ingredients for a great conspiracy theory. And the idea that they might have stashed some of their legendary riches in the Vatican, well, that's just too good to pass up, right?
Oh, yeah. We're talking about artifacts like the Holy Grail, the Ark of the Covenant, things that have captivated imaginations for centuries. And the thought that they might be hidden away in some secret vault beneath the Vatican, protected by the church itself, I mean, it's like something out of a movie.
It definitely makes for a thrilling story. But in terms of actual historical evidence, well, let's just say it's pretty thin on the ground. But hey, that doesn't mean it's not fun to speculate, right?
Oh, totally. It's all part of the mystery and intrigue that surrounds the Vatican. And I think it speaks to the power that the church holds in people's minds. This idea that they might be the guardians of these ancient artifacts, these sacred relics. Well, it adds a whole other layer to their authority and influence.
Right. It's like they become the keepers of history, the protectors of ancient secrets. And when you combine that with their role as a global player, a sovereign state with diplomatic ties all over the world, well, it's not hard to see why some people might get a little suspicious.
Yeah, I mean, you've got this blend of religious authority and political power. It's bound to raise some eyebrows. And that's where those New World Order theories come in, right? The idea that the Vatican is pulling strings behind the scenes, manipulating governments, working towards some secret agenda.
Those types of theories often reflect a deeper mistrust of institutions, a feeling that maybe things aren't what they seem, that there's a hidden power structure controlling things. And the Vatican, with its long history and its position on the world stage, well, it becomes an easy target for those suspicions.
Well, I mean, it's not like the Vatican doesn't have its own interests, right? They take stances on social
Yeah.
issues. They engage in international diplomacy. They're not just sitting on the sidelines. So it's natural that people would question their motives, especially when those motives might intersect with politics and global affairs.
Yeah, and I think sometimes we forget that even an institution with a spiritual mission like the Vatican still operates within the real world. They have to navigate those complex political and social landscapes, and sometimes those choices they make are going to be controversial. It's just part of being a player on the world stage, whether you're a nation state or a religious authority.
Okay, but let's be honest. We can't talk about Vatican intrigue without mentioning one of the most infamous scandals that's ever rocked the church. The whole Vatican Bank controversy. Allegations of money laundering, connections to organized crime. It's some pretty dark stuff.
Yeah, the Vatican Bank, or as it's officially known, the Institute for the Works of Religion, has definitely had its share of shady dealings over the years. And those scandals have done a lot to damage the church's reputation and fuel those conspiracy theories.
And then you've got the mysterious death of Roberto Calvi, nicknamed God's Banker, found hanging under Blackfriars Bridge in London. Talk about adding fuel to the fire. I mean, that whole episode just screams conspiracy, doesn't it? Oh, absolutely. It was a huge scandal for the Vatican, and the fact that the circumstances surrounding Calvi's death are still debated to this day, well, it just keeps those conspiracy theories alive. It's like a reminder that even institutions with a spiritual mission can get caught up in some pretty murky business. And when those dealings involve money and power, well, things can get dangerous. It's like something straight out of a spy novel, right? Secret meetings, shady financial transactions, people ending up dead under mysterious circumstances. It's hard not to get caught up in the intrigue of it all.
And the fact that the Vatican Bank has historically been so secretive, well, it just makes it that much easier for people to fill in the blanks with their own theories. It's like a perfect breeding ground for suspicion.
Okay, so we've covered secret archives, ancient prophecies, shadowy financial dealings. What could possibly top all that? Oh, right, how about aliens?
Well, the Vatican does have a long-standing interest in astronomy. They've got their own observatory. They've been involved in scientific research for centuries. So it's not entirely out there that some people might connect those dots to the possibility of extraterrestrial life.
And that brings us to Project Lucifer. Now, this is the theory that the Vatican's got this powerful telescope in Arizona, and it's not just any telescope, it's nicknamed Lucifer.
Yeah.
And some folks believe they're using it to monitor alien activity. I mean, come on, how cool is that?
Well, I think it speaks to our fascination with the unknown, with the possibility of life beyond our planet. And for some people, the Vatican, with its historical and spiritual authority, well, they seem like the perfect candidate to be in the know about these things.
Yeah, it's like they become the bridge between science and faith when it comes to alien contact.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe they're preparing for some kind of cosmic disclosure,
Yeah.
trying to figure out how to fit alien life into our religious understanding of the universe.
It's definitely a thought-provoking idea, isn't it? I mean, it forces us to confront those big questions about our place in the universe, about the nature of life, and about how our belief systems might adapt to something so fundamentally different from anything we've ever known.
All right, so for our last stop on this whirlwind tour of Vatican conspiracies, let's dive into one that's a bit more philosophical. The idea that the Vatican is actively suppressing knowledge that could challenge its authority or its dogma. Kind of like a cosmic game of hide and seek.
Yeah, the Vatican has definitely been accused of censorship throughout history. The most famous example being the Galileo affair, where the church condemned his scientific findings because they contradicted their teachings. So it's not hard to see why some people might believe that they're still in the business of keeping certain truths hidden.
Right. It raises those big questions about the balance of power between faith and reason, and whether institutions, even those devoted to spiritual matters, can really handle the truth when it challenges their core beliefs. And when it comes to the Vatican, I mean, we're talking about an institution that's built on a foundation of tradition, of unwavering faith. So the idea that they might be holding back information that could shake those foundations, well, it's pretty unsettling.
Oh, absolutely. It kind of taps into that fear we all have, right? The fear that maybe we're not getting the whole story, that there's a hidden truth out there that could change everything. And when you apply that to the Vatican, well, the stakes just seem that much higher.
Right. We're talking about the possibility of lost gospels, ancient texts, maybe even alternative versions of history. And the idea that the Vatican might be the gatekeeper to all that, well, it's both fascinating and terrifying at the same time.
It's definitely one of those topics that really gets your imagination going. It makes you wonder, what if there is a completely different version of history out there, one that challenges everything we thought we knew? And if that version is locked away somewhere in the Vatican, well, what does that say about the power they hold?
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive. Secret archives, prophecies, shadowy finances, even aliens and forbidden knowledge. It's clear that the Vatican, with its long history, its influence, and let's be honest, its tendency towards secrecy, is like a giant magnet for speculation. It's a place where history, faith, and power all collide, creating this perfect storm of intrigue and mystery.
And I think what's so fascinating about these theories, even the ones that might seem a little out there, is that they reveal something about us, about our own anxieties and desires. They show how we grapple with big questions, with the unknown, with the things that scare us and the things that give us hope. And I think that's what we're going to explore further in the next part of our deep dive. We're going to look at these theories not just as entertaining stories, but as reflections of ourselves, of our relationship with power, with belief, and with the search for meaning in a world that can often feel chaotic and confusing.
That's a great point. It's like these theories are more than just conspiracies. They're like windows into our collective psyche. And I think that's what makes them so compelling. They're not just about uncovering secrets. They're about understanding ourselves. So join us next time as we delve deeper into the psychological and cultural significance of these Vatican theories. And as always, we encourage you to keep thinking critically, keep asking questions, and keep that curiosity alive.
You know, when you really think about it, all these Vatican theories, whether it's hidden treasures or, forbidden knowledge, they kind of tap into this deeper human desire, right? Like we want to uncover what's hidden. We want to find the truth that's behind the official narrative.
Yeah, it's like we can't resist those stories that challenge the accepted version of history.
Yeah.
Those little glimpses behind the curtain of power and secrecy. It's like a part of us just wants to believe that there's more to the story than we're being told.
And sometimes those alternative narratives, that they can be so compelling, even if they don't have, solid evidence to back them up. It's like a reminder that history itself is often a matter of perspective. What one person might see as a conspiracy, another person might see as the truth.
That's true. Our understanding of the past is always evolving, right? As new evidence comes to light, perspectives change. And the Vatican, with its long and complicated history, it's a perfect example of that. It's played such a major role in shaping Western civilization. So it's only natural that there would be both admiration and suspicion surrounding its actions.
Yeah, it's like trying to put together this massive puzzle, but the pieces are scattered throughout history. Every generation tries to fit those pieces together, but the picture they create can look totally different depending on which pieces they choose to focus on.
Right. So some people might see the Vatican as this beacon of faith and morality, while others might see it as a symbol of power and control. And the truth is probably somewhere in between. It's such a multifaceted institution with, this really complex legacy.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to approach these discussions with nuance and with critical thinking. We can acknowledge the Vatican's contributions to art and to culture and to humanitarian efforts, while also recognizing that they've made mistakes in the past. And, any large institution has the potential for abuse of power.
It's all about looking at the whole picture, right? The good and the bad, and trying to understand how all those different elements have shaped the Vatican's image and its influence over time. It's not about just blindly accepting or dismissing any one narrative. It's about looking at things with a critical eye.
And that's one of the things that makes these conspiracy theories so interesting, I think. They force us to confront some uncomfortable questions. They challenge our assumptions, and they make us think critically about the institutions that shape our world.
It's like they're holding up a mirror to us, reflecting our own anxieties and beliefs and desires.
Right.
By exploring those reflections, we can maybe gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and the society we live in.
But it's also important to remember that these theories, even if they don't have, hard evidence to support them, they can still have a real impact on the world. They can shape public opinion, they can fuel distrust in institutions, and in some cases, they can even lead to violence.
Yeah, that's a scary thought. It reminds us that words have power, and spreading misinformation, even if we don't mean to, can have serious consequences.
Exactly. It really highlights the importance of critical thinking and media literacy, especially these days with how fast information spreads online. Sometimes it's hard to tell what's true and what's not, and those sensationalized stories, they tend to grab our attention more than, a nuanced analysis.
For sure. We need to be careful about the information we consume. We need to question our sources, look for evidence, and be wary of those stories that try to manipulate our emotions instead of appealing to our reason.
It's all about finding that balance between, healthy skepticism and being open-minded, being curious about the world, but also being critical of the information that we're taking in.
That's exactly what we've been trying to do in this deep dive, right? We're exploring these theories with a critical eye, not to say that we believe them, but to try to understand why they're so compelling and to encourage you, our listeners, to engage with these ideas thoughtfully.
Because these theories, they're more than just, entertaining stories. They reflect our hopes and our fears and our anxieties about the world. And by understanding those deeper motivations, we can maybe start to understand ourselves and the human condition a little bit better.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are your final thoughts? What's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from this exploration of Vatican theories?
I think the most important thing to remember is that the Vatican, despite all the mystery and the power that surrounds it, it's ultimately a human institution. It's made up of people with their own beliefs and motivations and flaws. And like any human institution, it's capable of both great things and terrible things.
That's a good point. Kind of humanizes the Vatican, right? It takes it off that pedestal of being this untouchable entity.
And it reminds us that we have a responsibility to hold institutions accountable, to question their actions, and to demand transparency, especially when those institutions have so much influence in the world.
And to never stop being curious, to never stop searching for the truth, even if that search takes us down some strange and unexpected paths.
Exactly. Curiosity and critical thinking, those are the keys to navigating a complex world, especially when it comes to institutions like the Vatican.
Well said. We've covered a lot of ground today, haven't we? All these mysteries and conspiracy theories surrounding the Vatican.
It's been a fascinating journey exploring this intersection of faith and history and power, and hopefully it sparked your own curiosity and inspired you to do some more exploring on your own.
Don't forget, we always love hearing from you guys, our amazing listeners. So what do you think about all these theories? Got any favorite Vatican conspiracies of your own?
Yeah, definitely share them with us.
Hit us up on social media. Let's keep this conversation rolling. Okay, but before we wrap things up, I got to ask you this. It's kind of a big one.
Okay, shoot.
What is it about the Vatican that makes it such a breeding ground for conspiracy theories? I mean, why the Vatican? It's not like other institutions don't have their fair share of secrets.
It's a great question. And honestly, I think it's like a perfect storm of different factors that come together in this really unique way.
Well, yeah, I mean, for starters, there's the whole secrecy thing, right? Closed-door meetings, private archives, and that general feeling that they're not exactly being super transparent with the public. It's like there's this giant keep out sign hanging over the entire city-state.
Exactly. Secrecy always breeds suspicion, right? And the Vatican's history is full of protecting information and certain doctrines. I mean, I get it to some extent, but that kind of secrecy, it just naturally leads to speculation. It makes people wonder what they're not being told,
And then you've got like the sheer weight of history. We're talking about an institution that's over 2,000 years old. They've seen empires rise and fall, wars, revolutions. It's hard to imagine that they wouldn't have a few skeletons in the closet along the way, right?
Totally. I mean, the Vatican's past is intertwined with all these major historical events. So, of course, people are going to ask questions. They're going to wonder what role the Vatican played, and they're going to come up with their own theories about what might have really happened.
And let's not forget about the whole power dynamic. The Vatican's not just a religious authority, right? It's also its own country with diplomatic ties all over the world.
Right. It's got this global reach, this influence that extends far beyond the walls of Vatican City.
Exactly. So that kind of makes people nervous, right? They start thinking about secret agendas and hidden power structures. And the Vatican, with its long history and its position on the world stage, well, it just becomes an easy target for those suspicions.
For sure. especially for those who are maybe already distrustful of authority or institutions.
So we've got secrecy, we've got a long and complicated history, and we've got this unique blend of religious and political power. It's like a recipe for conspiracy theories, right?
It really is. But I think there's also something else at play here, something a little deeper.
Oh yeah, what's that?
We're humans, right? We're curious by nature. We want to understand the world around us. And when we encounter something that seems mysterious or unexplained, we try to fill in those gaps with our imaginations. And that's where those theories come in. They offer us a way to make sense of things, to impose order on chaos.
I like that. So it's not just about uncovering hidden truths or exposing secret plots. It's about trying to understand the world and our place in it.
Exactly. It's about those big questions, the ones that have been with us since the beginning of humanity. And the Vatican, with its connection to faith and spirituality and the search for meaning, well, it just becomes this focal point for those questions.
It's like all those things, the secrecy, the history, the power, it all comes together to create this irresistible aura of mystery around the Vatican. It's like a magnet for anyone who loves to dig deeper, to question the official narrative, to explore those what-if scenarios.
And at the end of the day, I think that's why these Vatican theories are so enduring. They tap into something fundamental about the human experience, our need to understand, our desire to believe, and our fascination with the unknown.
Well said. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the Vatican, I just want to say this. Keep questioning, keep exploring, keep an open mind, but also remember to think critically. Don't just accept everything you hear at face value.
Exactly. The search for truth, it's an ongoing journey. And sometimes the most unexpected paths lead to the most interesting discoveries.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So that's it for today, folks. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the heart of the Vatican. We hope you enjoyed it. And as always, keep seeking, keep wondering, and keep the conversation going.